Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Have you ever heard the saying that if you tell yourself a lie often enough, you will start to believe it? The basic premise is that your subconscious mind will accept whatever you impress upon it. It's unlike your conscious mind. Your conscious mind can reject thoughts and ideas. Your conscious mind can come up with wonderful ideas, but it also can reject ideas that you don't want to believe. But your subconscious emotional mind can only accept the images you feed it with emotion and repetition. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that lovely to know that when you say something beautiful, lovely, wonderful, often enough with emotion, being joyful and happy and believing in wonders and miracles, knowing that when you know something, you project it, you receive it. So your subconscious mind only accepts the images that you feed it with emotion and repetition. It's just that so often we get wrapped up in the current reality and the past hurts and problems that we get emotionally involved with what we don't want. And that leads us to creating more of it because our subconscious mind simply follows the direction, it follows the program, it shows you evidence of what you've been thinking about. So rather than telling yourself over and over and over, well, this is the truth. This is what I don't want. This is the problem in my life. This is what's causing me anxiety and depression and heartache. And this is true. Well, it will continue to be true for you so long as you continue to emotionalize it, because your subconscious mind only accepts the images that you feed it with emotion and repetition, good or bad. Why not try emotionalizing something that you truly desire? What would it feel like to really have whatever it is that you've been wishing for and dreaming of and thinking about, instead of saying, oh, yeah, that'd be nice, but really getting into what would it be like in your mind, acting as if it's already yours? Let's think about that for a minute. If you know that there is a particular thing, let's say a red convertible, and you want this red convertible, you dream about it, you have a vision board with it on, you've gone to the dealership and you know exactly which one you want, and you start seeing them, you start seeing other people driving them, and you just can't wait to own that red convertible. What if you took it for a test drive? What if you decided, yes, that's what I want? And instead of talking yourself out of it because you don't have the money, just pretend in your mind when you're driving your rundown car or your borrowed vehicle or whatever you're driving, pretend that you're sitting in the red convertible. Pretend that you are so proud and enjoying the feeling of driving that red convertible. can feel the stitching on the steering wheel. You can notice everybody looking at you in your vehicle because it's so beautiful. Act as if it's already yours. And the way is shown, the universe works out the details. You have no idea how it could come. Perhaps you win it in a lottery, or you earn enough money that you easily and effortlessly pay for it. But the vehicle, the beautiful red convertible that you love so much, that you really want, is yours after you think you are worthy of it, you deserve it. You have the energetic vibration send out into the universe and focus your attention on what it would be like to own that vehicle. And as you think about it and dream about it and draw pictures of it and make vision boards, it's the feeling as if it's yours and it's on its way. Just like you know Christmas is coming. It's not here today, but at the right time, on the right date, it shows up. When you get in alignment with what you really want and you feel you emotionalize it, it shows up at the right time when all the cooperative components fall into place, including your belief that you're worthy of it. And freedom comes when we stop being what other people think we should be and start acting like the person we want to be. Bob Proctor used to say, what others think of you is none of your business. At first, that kind of rattled me. What do you mean? It's none of my business. They're talking about me. Of course, it's personal. It is my business. But when you really think about it, you can have opinions about a certain person. You might really dislike someone, and yet you know another person that loves that person you dislike. What's the difference? That's the same person, but you have an opinion that doesn't match the person who is in love with that guy you don't like. What others think of you is none of your business. You're going to have opinions that differ from everybody else in certain realms, in certain ideas. So if you understand that you have the freedom to think whatever you want, everyone else has the freedom to think whatever they want. And the more you try to convince a person of your position, you notice they defend themselves more. So it's just let it go and decide what you want and get emotionally involved in living the way you prefer, regardless of what other people think of you. Ryan Proctor was Bob Proctor's son, and he wrote a wonderful book called My Father Knew the Secret, growing up with Bob Proctor. And as far back as Brian can remember, he said his dad would always say, Brian, act as if you are already the person you want to become. He said it because he knew that if I learned to create that from within, that the subconscious mind would not know the difference between fact and fiction. And if I acted like the person I wanted to become, I would eventually become that person. This holds true for all of us. Instead of dreaming and wishing and hoping that someday you're going to have a goal, whether it's that red convertible or the love of your life or your business flourishing, whether your goal is regarding beautiful, loving relationships and nicer material things, better life experiences, vital health. You can have health, happiness, and wealth in every area of your life. You don't have to trade one for the other, but instead of wishing and hoping, how about starting to become that which you want? Act as if. Act as if it's already yours. Now, Alfred Adler, the Austrian medical doctor, psychotherapist, and founder of the School of Individual Psychology, first coined the phrase act as if. It was in the 1920s, and he developed a strategy for his clients to practice roles that differed from their dysfunctional behaviors or realities. It's often called role playing. Well, Bob Proctor taught Brian a lot about using behavioral tools to improve his reality, and he often heard people mock the catchphrase and fake it until you make it. And that comes from the idea of act as if. Well, you can understand the cynicism because when it's used literally, the term can conjure up a sense of someone being a total imposter, trying to lie or cheat their way to success. However, these claims are missing the point of this exercise. Acting as if is about changing your behavior to align with the person that you are working to become. Changing your behavior first will change what you feel and how you think about yourself. Bob Proctor and his suits are a good example of this. Bob Proctor loved fine-tailored suits. Brian says back in the early 1960s, when he first started his cleaning business, Bob Proctor scraped together his last few dollars to buy a wool suit. This was the one and only suit he had for his first few years in business. It was not the best quality, so you can imagine how scratchy it would start to feel on his skin. He loved the look of it, but he got tired of how it felt. More importantly, he got tired of the same look every single day. Well, one day he heard an interview on the radio with someone famous, and that person mentioned that he had over 20 custom tailored suits in his closet. That really shook up Bob Proctor. He thought to himself, how wonderful would that be? Until that time, he had never heard of anyone with more than one or maybe two suits. Something in that interview changed Bob Proctor's perspective. He decided then and there that if he reached a specific target each month, he would go out and get himself a custom tailored suit. He honored that agreement he made with himself, and it wasn't long before he had a closet full of suits. In the beginning, he had to act like the person that deserved and could afford all those suits. Now, this isn't about ego. This is about imagining in your mind what that would look like, what that would feel like. In no time, he became that person. It was very rare to see Bob Proctor dressed in anything other than a fine custom-made suit. It was back in 2020 that I saw him wear a pair of slacks, like jeans, and sort of a sweatshirt. It was the most casual look I had ever seen him wear, but mostly he was in beautiful, finely tailored suits. He always looked wonderful. So, wearing those well-made suits not only changed how he felt about himself, it changed the way he carried himself. He said that wearing those new suits made him walk with purpose. He knew that the people around him started to see him differently too, and he liked that. Being dressed that way was a very important part of how Bob Proctor saw himself because he understood how dressing this way positively affected his self-image. He wanted others to have the same experience, so he began giving custom clothing as gifts and rewarding people that worked for him with custom suits or dresses. And he continued that tradition right up until the end when he died at the age of 87. As a result, the Proctors were a very well-dressed company and family. Brian Proctor grew up understanding that you cannot cherry pick which of the universal laws that you're going to live by. All the universal laws apply to everyone all the time. You either live your life consciously following all of them or you don't. And if you don't, you will never experience growth in a way that serves your entire being. You may appear to be winning because one area of your life is giving off that appearance, but the truth is, if you're not living in alignment with all the universal laws, you're not really winning. Acting as if doesn't mean being phony or inauthentic. It's about changing behavior first. It is a step toward changing the way you see yourself. The goal is to change how you feel inside, and you will know you're on the right track when you feel that change. Feeling is the language of the subconscious mind. In January 1988, Brian Proctor started a new career as a real estate salesperson. And Bob had two suggestions for his son that he applied immediately. He said, "Act as if I am the most successful real estate salesperson ever. If I do that, people will believe it. And more importantly, in time, I'll believe it myself." And number two, only surround yourself with successful salespeople. Brian says that was some of the best advice I ever internalized. I made sure I started in an office with successful people and I stuck closely to them, learning from them. I acted like I was selling a house every day and I had been doing it forever. My very first clients would have never known that they were my first ever real estate sale. The key was that I gave them service far superior to anything they had ever experienced before. So in their eyes, I was the successful agent I acted like. And it didn't take long for my self-image to catch up. When I had close family or friends try to knock me down, I would just let their comments go without giving them energy. As Dad would say, they don't know any better. Just forgive them and keep going. So I stayed in character And soon I was exactly who I was acting as. In my first year, I made it into the top 100 list for a major real estate company nationwide. For me, this was not an experiment. It was a way of life that I had been brought up with, and it has always worked for me. When you define the higher version of yourself, you are reaching for and begin to live this exercise. You will stand taller, smile more broadly, more confidently, and in every respect, act as if you own it. Jim Rohn coined the phrase, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." This is so true. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Bob Proctor loved putting that quote up on the screen during his seminars, saying that if you surround yourself with people who are making it happen, people who are going in the direction you want, just surrounding yourself with them is a step toward your path of improvement. And he'd follow that up with, you need to keep company with people who are positive and supportive of you and who are out in the world making a difference. I absolutely believe this is true. In the beginning, Bob Proctor put on a lot of seminars and it took a lot of work and it was not always profitable. He left behind a successful cleaning business that he had built into an empire serving several cities and countries to pursue his dream of teaching this material. And that really opened him up to criticism and self-doubt. He said that in those moments, he turned his focus and energy to teaching the information that had enabled him to build that empire in the first place. Teaching from the stage was all he wanted to do. So when he would show up to speak and the audience was small, he taught as if every seat was occupied. I remember Bob Proctor telling the story of booking an entire 200-seat theater to teach the laws of the universe, to talk about the law of attraction, to talk about believe and then you will receive. What you think about, you bring about. And there were 2 people in that theater of 200. And he commanded the stage and he taught as if the audience was full, that the theater was full, every seat was occupied. He pretended in his mind that he had a full audience. And before he passed away, Bob Proctor's name, his programs, his influence was in every country in the world because he acted as if, even when he only had a couple of clients, he only had a few people showing up. Brian Proctor says, I will never know exactly how long it took for my father to become the full version of what he imagined, but I know it was years. And because Dad was always working to improve himself, he likely changed that image many times, always adding to his definition of what he wanted next for himself, the person he wanted to become. He never stopped reaching for new heights. Even at the age of 87, in the days that preceded his death, he was studying and working on himself. Brian Proctor says, whenever I feel doubt creep into my thoughts, I take a quiet moment and I think to myself, what would my father do? I then commit to having the kind of persistence and discipline He showed me my entire life. Decide that you will be the one to define who you are, not other people. Remember what Bob said? What others think of you is none of your business. Freedom comes when we stop being what other people think we should be and start acting like the person we want to be. What we give attention to in our life grows. So be careful and purposeful about what you are focusing on. And always remember that negativity keeps company just as much as positivity does. You get to choose the company you want to keep. Keep in mind that to act as if when you're not there yet is not always easy to do, because we all have friends and family who have their stories about who we are. To present our friends and family with a different version of ourselves is uncomfortable. In fact, often when we try to be something different, it's the ones that are closest to us that will be the first ones to try and bring us down. They do this because they feel threatened. They may or may not even realize what they're doing. Bob Proctor would say, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. And when you present yourself differently to those close to you, you are making them uncomfortable. You are shifting their world and creating change. This is the real test. When you enter this phase of judgment from those you love and are close to, how bad do you want this? How badly do you want your goal, your dream, the ideal life, the health, the happiness, the wealth that you desire? When we feel judged, becomes the moment in time when we need to hold tight to our vision and act with confidence and determination to be that better version of ourselves, regardless. The ability to hold the vision and act as if, despite how it feels when the sharpness of other people's opinions cut deeply, that's when you know you are aligning your behavior with your belief. Believe that you are becoming the person that has the goal. What do you truly desire? In your mind, act as if you're already there. If you tell yourself that enough, you start to believe it. Your subconscious, emotional mind only accepts the images you feed it with emotion and repetition. Act as if you are already the person you want to become, regardless of the opinions of others, regardless of the current reality. Practice this weekend, acting as if, no matter what. Maybe you spend some time writing down where you were successful in doing that and how good that felt. You can see there's some growth. Write down what it is that you truly desire and how would you feel? How would you be acting? Write it as if you're there now. I am so happy and grateful now that. Write down your ideal health, wealth, and happiness. Get into the feeling that it's already yours. In your mind, pretend that it is. Spend some time acting as if you are already that person. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you back here Monday morning at 7. Create a wonderful day. Thank you.